So let's say I just picked up a Nikon camera. What are some of the accessories I can get to enhance my photography experience?
That's a great question, because that's probably one of the first things that people are going to be looking at is they'll buy the camera, they'll get the kit lens, and then sometimes they'll just go home and be like, oh, I really want to be able to do this or this or this.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we can really show them while they're actually here in the store. The first and initial ones are extra battery, memory cards, tripods, things like that. Things that they kind of think of, but the ones that we sometimes need to really kind of remind them about are lenses and flashes.
Right.
Those are the two. With lenses, we can kind of break it up into 3 different categories, depending on what it is they're looking to do. The first would be portraits. So a lot of people get into a DSLR because they now have a new family, they have a young child, maybe they just got a new pet, and they really want to get some great photos of that pet or child. And the kit lens, it does a decent job. It gets that snapshot, but it doesn't really isolate their subject.
Right.
So by going and popping on, let's say, a portrait lens, you're really able to make the background and the foreground very blurry,
Right.
kind of blowing out the background and putting emphasis on your actual subject itself. So the portrait lenses, if you have somebody with a brand new family, this is a really great option for them. The next is when they're really kind of trying to push their photography a little bit further and they're going from the normal everyday kind of wide angle world,
Right.
and they really want to focus on the macro. So let's say birds, bees, flowers, things like that. They want to
Small
get
birds.
yes, yeah, very small birds.
Yeah.
They want to get as close as possible to these objects.
Right.
A micro lens, a macro lens is really going to work for them. So we have a couple. We have a 40 mil and 85 mil, and that really just varies how close you have to be to your subject. But they're fantastic in trying to really illuminate how much kind of fun things there are that we see every day. Top of a bottle, just even the writing on the actual lens itself. It really gives a different perspective when you use a macro lens on it.
Right.
So you have the portrait, you have your macro, and then the easiest one to really recommend to people is a telephoto zoom. This is one that everybody kind of thinks that they need, and they do because sometimes there's something your subject is 20, 30 feet away and you want to be able to zoom in. If you've ever been to the zoo, you want to see the lion, the elephant, bring it up real close,
Right.
throw on your zoom lens, and you're able to zoom in without actually having to walk closer to it. So it's a really useful lens to have, whether they're just doing around the city or if they do a lot of traveling. The zoom lens is huge. So those are the 3 categories of lenses: the zoom, the macro, and the portrait lens. And then there's one that most people don't really think of when it comes to an accessory, and it's the external flash.
Right.
Everybody pretty much knows that you have a built-in pop-up flash with almost every single one of our cameras until you got to the top of the line D4. So if I already have a pop-up flash, why do I need anything else? Well, one reason that people actually get away from the compact cameras is because this tiny little flash here, it creates really unnatural looking pictures. And that's one thing is people say, you know, I want to get into a DSLR, I'm not happy with my indoor pictures. And when they say indoor, they mean that little flash is causing the deer in the headlights look in all of their subjects. Shadow behind the ears, glare in the forehead. By going and popping one of these onto the actual camera, you eliminate pretty much all of that. So it's really not rocket science. You don't have to worry about getting your protractor out and figuring out the angles. You basically pop it straight up. You never want to point it right at your subject because all you're doing now is you're just giving the photographer more power to blind your subject with.
Okay.
So by just bouncing right off the ceiling or off of walls beside or behind you, you're going to get much more natural looking photos because that's the way we normally see light. We see light coming from the sun and from inside in the store, right straight down. So by popping an external flash on, you get much more natural looking photos. And to me, a flash is probably the #1 accessory that's going to kind of elevate somebody's photography to a new level, compared with, let's say, getting a flash or a tripod or an extra battery. So it's really, really helpful in getting somebody to that next level.
Great. Good stuff.